Soul Streaming Entry 13. I outgrew teaching people how to meet me. A written and audio experience by Sim. The language that chose me. I soul stream my journal entries because there is a group of us who require a non-negotiable relationship with ourselves in order to communicate. For some of us, language is not something we use casually. It is something we build internally before we ever speak it outwardly. My way of communicating happens through recording and writing, because those are the places where my thoughts can move without being rushed or flattened. Other people express this same internal relationship through art, music, movement, or creation in all its forms. Many of us develop these languages not because we want to be different, but because we are not surrounded by people who understand our depth. Over time, you learn to meet yourself where others cannot. I have said this before, that depth can be isolating, but what I want to speak to now is what that depth actually requires of you. It requires endurance. It requires self-witnessing. It requires staying present even when your internal world is shifting faster than your external reality can keep up with. If I'm being honest, we fight through a lot just to remain intact. We fight to stay open. We fight to stay kind. We fight to stay connected to our purpose when the feedback loop is quiet or non-existent. That kind of inner consistency does not come without cost. There is also a level of responsibility that comes with depth that people rarely talk about. When you are highly aware, you become naturally observant. You notice what shifts before it is announced. You feel when something is off before there are words for it. And because of that, you often adjust first. You soften first. You compensate first. Over time, that becomes a pattern that looks like strength from the outside. But internally, it can become exhausting if it is not reciprocated. Moving through contrast. Lately, I have been sitting in a lot of contrast. I was having a conversation with my little sister when she said something about how the past cannot be changed. From a 3D perspective, I understand that. But that explanation has never felt complete to me. When I walk through dimensions, I revisit the past. I am grounded in the present moment while also accessing versions of myself who made different choices and experienced different outcomes. That awareness does not pull me out of my reality. It deepens my understanding of it. So the contrast I am feeling now does not feel random. It feels hella intentional. Every emotion exists on a spectrum. Each feeling carries a range from low to high, and all of them together form a much larger collective spectrum. What I have noticed is that when you grow, you do not stop feeling certain emotions. You feel them at a higher resolution. Right now, I am experiencing higher expressions of emotions that once lived much lower on my scale. They feel different, but they are familiar. And whenever that happens, I know I am preparing to leap again. The feelings that cannot come with me always surface before the next phase arrives. People tend to resist the word test, but for me, a test has never meant punishment. A test means preparation. It means initiation. It means I am being prepared for the next phase if I am willing to meet it. Sometimes that preparation looks like consciously walking through scenarios that surface the final layers of certain emotions. From the outside, it can look like the same experience is repeating, like you are looping a cycle you already worked through. But it is not repetition, it is review. It is being given the opportunity to meet the same emotional frequency with a different level of awareness. When you understand that something is not happening to you but for you, your relationship to it changes. You stop bracing. You stop reacting. You move into observation. That is where I have been, watching myself without collapsing into judgment, allowing feelings to move without attaching stories that make them permanent. This is not detachment. It is discernment. When care is one-sided, there is a specific grief that comes with realizing you are profoundly seen by yourself. deeply attuned to others, and largely unmirrored in return. You spend a lifetime studying people and tracking their damn moods, noticing subtle shifts, adjusting your tone and leading between the lines, offering presence before it is requested, not because you are trying to earn love, but because attunement is your native language. So when you pull inward, when you go quiet and no one notices, it lands heavy, not because you expect mind reading, but because you know exactly what awareness looks like when it is alive. What I'm noticing now isn't cruelty, it's absence. And that distinction matters to me. I've spent a lifetime being okay, doing my own self-regulating, and being the one who doesn't require much. People assume I'm fine because I usually am. But what I'm outgrowing is environments where care only shows up when prompted, where connection exists only if I initiate it. The in-between matters to me now. Even the noticing without being asked, the presence without a request. I often think about energy exchange in terms of charging because it's the simplest way to understand what is actually happening. Think of yourself as the phone. Your energy is the battery, and the people you connect with are chargers. Some people are fast chargers. You plug in, and within minutes you feel regulated, clear, steady, and resourced again. Some people are mid-level chargers. They don't drain you, but it takes hours of contact to feel full, and over time that's still wear on your system. And then there are faulty chargers, the ones that look like support, but slowly drain your ass while convincing you they're helping. When you are deeply aware, you naturally become a fast charger for others without even trying. People leave conversations with you feeling lighter, calmer, clearer, and more regulated. And when that dynamic becomes one-sided, you start to realize that love alone is not enough to sustain the connection. There has to be awareness. There has to be effort. There has to be reciprocity. Otherwise, you end up constantly plugged into outlets that were never designed to hold your voltage. It is true that people meet others at the level of consciousness they share. They know how to show up there. When someone is operating several layers ahead, people often freeze. Not out of malice, but out of limitation. Knowing that can help you understand the dynamic. But it does not dissolve the ache. Intellectual clarity does not always soothe emotional reality. Pretending it should only creates more distance within yourself. There is a weight in being the one who walks ahead and transmute energy first. The one who stabilizes the field without being asked. The one whose presence quietly benefits everyone around her. Carrying that role without reciprocal attunement is exhausting. The wound that gets touched is not about abandonment. It is about imbalance. You know what it feels like for people to have access to your energy. You do not know what it feels like to receive it back in the same way. And I want to speak directly to the ones who share this frequency because I know you are here. I feel you even if our lives have never intersected in obvious ways yet. I get how this path can feel isolating without actually feeling lonely, how it sharpens your awareness rather than dulls it. I see how you move through the world observant instead of performing, and listening instead of managing how you're being perceived. I see how you love with presence, how you notice what matters without needing it spelled out for you. And I love you for staying soft, staying honest, and staying true to yourself, even when it would be easier to shut down or disengage. This work is not something you stumbled into. It is something you remembered. And when I speak from this place, I am speaking to you. There is also something happening beneath the surface that deserves to be named. That feeling of being physically present, but internally elsewhere is not disconnection. It is integration. It can look strange from the outside because you are still here, still capable of doing mundane everyday things. You can answer messages, you can make food, you can show up when necessary. But internally, your awareness is occupied elsewhere, sorting through layers that cannot be rushed. The psyche is reorganizing. Old identities are being archived. New ones are not fully online yet. Language starts to feel insufficient, not because something is wrong, but because words have not caught up to what is being integrated. During a recent body-based meditation, My nervous system finally said what my mouth didn't need to. My legs jolted, my arm went numb, and energy moved where I've learned to stay contained. Not because I still believe I need to perform for love, but because my body remembers when that was once required. This isn't about blame. This is the removal of what no longer belongs to me and with me. I'm letting go of what no longer has permission to live in my body. During these periods, life can feel quieter and slower even while the world keeps moving. You may feel less interested in surface level conversation or overstimulation. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. Your nervous system is prioritizing coherence over performance. You are learning how to stay in your body while your consciousness does deep internal work. That is why it matters not to rush this phase, not to fill the space with noise, and not to soak up energy that is misaligned simply to feel normal or tolerated. Being around the wrong frequency during integration can pull you backward, confuse your system, or delay the clarity that is trying to land. And when you come out the other side of darkness with your nervous system intact, your heart still open, and your faith still online, there is often no one physically waiting for you yet. Not because you did something wrong, but because most people do not go there. Many stop halfway, many numb out, many rush to replace the discomfort instead of listening to it. This space you are in is not emptiness, it is calibration. It is the moment where your internal reality is catching up to the growth you have already lived through. And honoring it is not withdrawal, it is devotion to your becoming. So you turn inward without abandoning yourself. That choice does not make the moment easy, but it keeps it honest. The tiredness lives in the body because the body is holding more than one truth at the same time. Faith without proof, vision without form, expansion without companionship. Being misunderstood does not mean you will always be misunderstood. It means you are outpacing your environment. You are operating on a different bandwidth. It makes sense that you no longer want to force yourself into surface level exchanges just to feel less lonely. That is not avoidance. That is self-respect. Traditional books freeze a version of the author. My Soul Streaming Journal book documents the becoming. I am not writing from hindsight. I am writing from inside the trenches. This work is not about explaining how I made it. It is about showing how I stayed sane while I figured it out. This entry is not about loneliness. It is about post-initiation reality. The moment after the darkness has been walked through. The nervous system did not collapse. The heart did not close. The old life no longer fits, and the new one has not yet populated. When reciprocity becomes the standard. There was a time when I thought reciprocity was something that needed to be asked for or taught. A time when I believed that if I explained myself clearly enough, people would learn how to meet me. But I do not believe that anymore. I believe there are people whose baseline is reciprocity because it is what they know they deserve and what they naturally offer in return. I am no longer interested in training people how to care, how to notice, or how to show up with awareness. That is not failure of love. It is a recognition of compatibility. Reciprocity is not a request at this stage of my life. It is a standard. What matters most to me is this. I can acknowledge what is currently true without making it permanent, and without assigning meanings that turn awareness into self-blame. What I am speaking to here is connection. The kind that does not require constant instruction. The kind that does not ask you to keep teaching people how to love you, how to communicate with you, or how to notice you. There has to be a level of reciprocity where someone is as invested in understanding me as I am in understanding them. That kind of care comes from observation, from attunement, from paying attention to the people who matter so they do not always have to ask for what they need. That is a love language that is rarely named but deeply felt. And it is the kind of connection I recognize, trust, and remain open to. My legacy thread. There is a difference between being alone and being unsupported, and I am learning how to tell the truth about both without hardening myself. I am learning that self-attunement is not a consolation prize for a life that did not turn out the way I expected. It is the foundation that allows me to remain sovereign while everything else rearranges. I am choosing discernment over depletion, neutrality over fear-based conclusions, and trust over urgency. This is how cycles end without bitterness. This is how I keep my heart open without offering it to places that cannot hold it. A whisper for you. You are not imagining the distance you feel, and you are not wrong for honoring it. Awareness changes how connection works, and once you see clearly, you cannot unsee it. The people who resonate with you will not require performance, over-explanation, or self-abandonment. You will recognize one another through ease, through felt safety, through a mutual knowing of feeling that doesn't need to be said. What is meant to meet you is still finding its way to the version of you that now exists. Here are your journal prompts for this week's entry. Answer them honestly. Number 1. Where in your life are you acknowledging what is true without deciding it is permanent? Number 2. What emotions are you currently feeling at a higher level than you have before, even if they feel familiar? Number 3. Where have you been offering attunement outwardly without receiving it back? And what would it look like to redirect that energy inward? Number 4. What does reciprocity actually look like for you in relationships, beyond words or intentions? Number 5. Who in your life notices you without being asked, and how does your body respond to that kind of presence? Thank you for witnessing this soul stream. Reread it or listen to it whenever you need to come home to yourself. Until then, stay soft and stay true, and keep streaming your soul your way. Love, Sim.